Medicine is full of stories. Some are stories of hope and triumph, others are stories of loss and heartbreak, but all of them are real. In this series, I share true cases from medical practice. The details are real, but the names and personal details have been changed to protect privacy. My goal? To show you the reality of medicine, the victories, the struggles, and the moments that stay with us forever. Not every story has a happy ending, but every story matters. The girl who wasn't ready to die. Some patients stay with you forever. Their faces, their voices, their stories, they don't fade with time. And then there are the ones who haunt you, the ones who make you question whether you did enough, whether medicine did enough. Sophie Carter was one of those patients. She was 27 when I met her, too young to be sitting in an oncology clinic, too young to be hearing the words, "You have breast cancer." The diagnosis. She came in for a lump she had ignored for months. "I thought it was just a cyst," she told me, almost sheepishly. I mean, I'm 27. Cancer doesn't happen at 27, but it does. And it had. The scans showed a 5-centimeter tumor in her left breast. The biopsy confirmed the worst, triple-negative breast cancer, one of the most aggressive forms. To make matters worse, the PET scan revealed it had already spread to her liver and bones. Stage 4. Incurable. When I sat her down to tell her, I saw something I rarely see in young patients. Not fear. Not denial. Rage. "No, no way," she snapped. "This isn't happening. I have a life, a career. I'm supposed to be getting married next year." Her fiancé, Mark, sat beside her, his hands gripping her so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Sophie, we'll get through this." She jerked away from him. "No, this isn't real. I'm not dying." The fight begins. We started chemo the next week. It was a desperate attempt to slow the spread, to buy her time. Sophie threw herself into the fight with everything she had. She cut her hair before it could fall out. She showed up to every infusion wearing bright lipstick, determined not to look like a sick person. She refused to let cancer define her. But cancer doesn't care who you are. By the third cycle, the nausea was relentless. By the fourth, she needed a cane to walk. By the fifth, she was barely eating. One day, she showed up to my office alone. "Be honest with me, doc. How much time do I really have?" I hesitated. Months. Months, I admitted. "Maybe a year if the treatment works better than we expect." She stared at me, her green eyes burning with something fierce. "Then I'm going to make it count." Living while dying. Sophie refused to wait for death. She eloped with Mark in a tiny courthouse ceremony. She traveled despite the pain. She laughed despite the fear. She started a blog, Dying for More Time, where she documented everything. The good days, the bad days, the days she wanted to scream. People followed her journey, rooting for her, sending messages from around the world. But cancer is cruel. It doesn't care how much you want to live. One day, Sophie collapsed at home. The scans confirmed what I had feared. The cancer had spread to her brain. I sat with her in the hospital, watching as she tried to process the news through a fog of steroids and exhaustion. "I don't want to die," she whispered. "I know. I'm not ready." Neither was I. The final days. Sophie entered hospice a month later. She was too weak to stand, too tired to fight. Mark never left her side. One night, as I checked in on her, she opened her eyes and whispered, "Doc, promise me something. Anything. Tell people. Tell them to check themselves. Tell them cancer isn't just for old people." I squeezed her hand. "I promise." She died 2 days later. The patient I couldn't save. Sophie should have had a lifetime ahead of her. Instead, she had 14 months from diagnosis to death. I still think about her, about how unfair it was, about how cancer stole someone who wasn't ready to go. She was right. Cancer isn't just for old people, and sometimes, no matter how hard we fight, we lose. But we keep fighting anyway. For Sophie. For the next young woman who walks into my office, unaware that death is already knocking at her door. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your support helps share more stories like this.